It just sees Charlie's like pretzel can next to him in like his bed.
Animal crackers.
Yeah. You like them?
Quad or wow, that was bad math.
My mic's not echoing, right?
No, I'm good.
I don't hear it echoing, no.
Okay, good.
No,
NFL Week 1 predictions. We could not be more excited. Welcome back to the Back Pocket Podcast. NFL season is officially back in swing, and today we are going to be going over every single NFL game on the Week 1 slate. As always, joined by two of my wonderful co-hosts, Mr. Middle Part, new Middle Part, Dylan Shalom. Dylan, been a little bit, at least for me and you recording.
I'm excited to talk football and get into this NFL season.
Been great. Last time we talked soccer, and I'm excited now to talk football.
Yeah,
we do both. So
we do a lot of things over here. We know a lot. First game, and that is Thursday night. And as always, the NFL puts in a belter, as some people could say. Kansas City against Baltimore. I mean, this is just fireworks. Again, I think we said this last season on the first game of the season. I guess not because it was Lions, but this has potential to be the best game of the year. You look at both teams, you're looking at a Ravens team that now, rushing wise, is arguably the best rushing team in the league with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, assuming both can stay healthy. And obviously, Kansas City, who won the Super Bowl last year, have been incredible, have not lost any players, any momentum. They bring back Chris Jones for this year. It is just a game of elite players. It's going to be high emotions. Gentlemen, how do we feel about this game?
yeah, I think it's going to be a great game, and I really see it going either way. Like, I don't want to commit to one team fully like right now. I actually kind of want to hear what both of you have to say about it beforehand. But I think this is a game that it's going to be hard for Baltimore to win, of course, because playing the Chiefs at Arrowhead is not an easy thing to do. And then I also think it's a game that Kansas City could easily lose because we saw them lose at Arrowhead in week 1 last year to the Lions. So I don't really know for this one, but what I do know is it's a game that is, filled with star-studded talent. You just have so many absolute weapons and stars on the field. It has to be a fun watch. That's all I'm thinking.
Call me crazy, but I obviously the Chiefs are the favorites going into this, but I wouldn't be that surprised if someone had the Ravens as the favorites in this game. Is that, to you guys, is that something crazy to say? Because I don't feel like that's that crazy.
I think it's crazy to call the Ravens favorites, but it's not at all crazy to say that the Ravens might win. I think it's a close one, but I think it's hard to go into this game and say that the Ravens are favorites because the Chiefs are, reigning Super Bowl champs and still have Patrick Mahomes and they're at home. But picking the underdog in this one is not really picking an underdog.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy at all to say that the Chiefs or the Ravens are favored. Now, I do think the Chiefs are going to win. I'll be the first one to make my prediction. It's so up in the air because the Chiefs, I know you said that they didn't lose a lot of pieces, but they did lose L'Jarius Sneed, who was the most important piece in their secondary at the majority of last season. They lost Willie Gay also on the defense, but that was replaceable. It's not the end of the world. The offense stayed majority the same. The Ravens lost their defensive coordinator, though, and that's why I'm going to give this game to the Chiefs because the Ravens need some time to adjust to whatever new, and it's not going to be completely new because they hired in-house, but whatever little kinks and changes they need to make, they're going to need that time to adjust, and having a Thursday night game isn't really going to help, especially because a lot of training camp is just figuring out who's going to be on the team. So I'm going to go Kansas City here. It'll be a great game.
Yeah, I think this is obviously, matched up to be an incredible game. I think it's tough because I think you're looking at two teams that are both offensively very high powered, but I think the Ravens are going to be more of a rushing team in this game. Obviously, we know Mahomes and the Chiefs, their offense air raid wise is incredible. So I think we're going to be seeing two different style offenses when I think if I'm the Ravens, I'm running the ball a lot because I still think the Chiefs secondary is good. Obviously you lose a L'Jarius Sneed, that's huge. But they still have a secondary that's good enough, especially against a Ravens receiving core that's not fantastic. It's good. But you have Zay Flowers, which is kind of the standout guy. Bateman, who they gave a new deal to, who still hasn't stood out. And you guys know how much I loved Bateman coming out of college. but definitely hasn't lived up to his draft pick. So that's what gives me the hardest kind of time with this game, because do you think that, a Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry rushing attack can win this game, which I think it could? Or do you think that it's the Mahomes show? Him, Kelsey, you add a guy like Xavier Worthy. So it's really tough for me. I'm gonna go Chiefs as well, as long as it took me to say that. But this game I think is even. When you look at it, I think it will be a game that's won by a stop. I think it could be very high scoring, because you have two very good defenses. But I'm really curious to see which side of each offense dominates. Maybe the Ravens don't go to the run as much, but that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna realistically potentially come down to even who gets the ball first at the start of the game, which sounds crazy to say, but the Ravens, I think goal wise this season is going to be to run the ball. When you have a player like Derrick Henry and their receiving threats, like I really like Zay Flowers a lot, and I really like Mark Andrews a lot, but there's no denying that they're going to be better off running the ball with Lamar and Henry than throwing the ball with those weapons. So I think if the Ravens can get the ball first, if the Ravens can put up some early points, they could dominate the rest of the game, just time of possession, not let Mahomes get the ball. And we've seen, that maybe gives you a chance at beating the Chiefs, but at the end of the day, your defense has to step up if you want to beat Mahomes. So I'm also going to pick the Chiefs because I think that the Ravens defense will not step up in the ways they need to in week one. It's tough to do. The Lions did it last year. I don't think the Ravens defense is going to be as good this year as the Lions defense was last year, which was an incredible unit. Uh, so for that reason, I am going to go with the Chiefs because I think the Ravens will just have just a bit of a harder time stopping the Chiefs than the other way around.
All right, there we go. Chiefs are on the board. Not a surprise. We'll move on to the Friday night game. Another fantastic matchup, high-powered offensive matchup. Green Bay faces off against Philadelphia. I've been saying this since before obviously the season started, but I've been saying this since early in the offseason. I think if Jordan Love stays healthy, I think if his weapons stay healthy, I think he is an MVP candidate. You look at the way he ended last season. Charlie, you talked about it in your Packers video. You look at what he did AT&T Stadium, almost a perfect passer rating away from home. He was absolutely incredible. Could argue statistically the best quarterback of the second half of the season in the entire National Football League. So I think the Packers are going to cause the Eagles a lot of problems. I think they have an aging secondary, which was exposed last year. And you have a Packers receiving core that does not, while they don't have that alpha, has been able to work extremely well together. You kind of, there's a receiver each game that steps up. I do think Dobbs will be the guy this year, but I love Dontavion Wicks. I think Jaden Reed is incredible. Obviously Christian Watson, who was out for last season, but they have a lot of options. You bring in Josh Jacobs in a backfield where Aaron Jones struggled last year. So I'm going to get to it straight away. I think the Packers will win this game. I like Green Bay in this game, but again, it's an Eagles team that now has Saquon, and me and Charlie as Giants fans, very hard to say that. But again, it's an Eagles team that just somehow each offseason gets better than they were before, and they already have a lot of talent. You lose Hassan Reddick on the offensive line, on the defensive line, which is a problem. But I think the Packers are a fluid, cohesive team. So that's what I think. I think Packers take this one.
I'm going to disagree with you here. I'm going to go Eagles. And again, very much up in the air. I think this could go either way, but the Eagles improved more this offseason than the Packers did. And if you look at where their flaws came in last year, it was in that aging secondary that we've talked about. And what I think they've done to improve that is they've drafted there. Their cornerback one this season is going to be a rookie. It's Quinyon Mitchell. And I'm right there, right? It is Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah,
that is who they drafted.
Okay,
I don't know if it'll be
okay.
the one, but that is.
But yeah, and the offensive line, even though it's old, is not beatable. Like, this is a offensive line that needed.
I mean, they did lose Jason Kelsey, so
it's true. It's true,
Well,
but
they also
tackle
they
also
in
have
football,
the best.
probably.
Yeah.
Trent Williams, I guess.
Two of the top 5 tackles in football, one of the best guards, and a perfectly fine replacement for Kelsey and Dickerson. So it's just
Dickerson's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just a stacked offensive line that is going to be more than capable of handling, in my eyes, what is a pretty weak Green Bay pass rush. And if you have Saquon in the backfield and Hurts at quarterback who could do a lot with his legs, I don't think the matchup suits. And another thing to touch on is this game's being played in Brazil. More specifically, this is being played in the stadium that Corinthians uses. They are really big rivals with Palmeiras, who wear green. The fans are going to hate the Packers, who are wearing their green.
I mean, the Eagles also wear green, so
But they're not wearing green in this game.
okay. I also wouldn't go that far because
The
I don't know
crossover,
how
that was
this is
crazy.
going to
Yeah,
happen.
Dylan pulled some strings there.
But I am gonna agree with you, Dylan. I think this will be an Eagles win. I think originally on the Packers preseason video, I predicted the Packers winning this game just because I love Jordan Love that much. I
Yeah.
shouldn't have said that so many times in that sentence, but I think this is the kind of matchup that I wouldn't be surprised if we saw in the playoffs in the divisional round
Yeah.
or potentially the conference championship or the wild card round. Who knows where we'll see it? And I think that's the matchup that I'd much rather pick the Packers in because I just think Jordan Love is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. But for this preseason game, I think that the Eagles have a better team. And I'm going to go with the Eagles because they've proven over the last few seasons to be a very, very good regular season team that wins a lot of games early in the season.
All right, there we go. We got our first different opinions there. So we got two Eagles and a Packer. Let's move on to the next one. This one not as interesting one. We probably have arguably the worst team in National Football League or one of the worst in the Carolina Panthers facing off against the average New Orleans Saints. So I don't expect us to harp on this one as much. Look, I like Bryce Young. We all did coming out of college the 2 years ago that me and Charlie did scouting for quarterbacks. I think Bryce Young was a very good college quarterback. Obviously, last year was put into a system that was not meant to help him. They go and get Xavier Legette, who, while we may not know what he says any of the time, he seems to look like a pretty good receiver. So I like Carolina. I like Bryce Young. I think this is a season where I hope we see a step up from him. But again, Carolina have not done much in the offseason. So to me, this is a Saints win. The Saints have, the Saints were not awful last season. I just think that the Panthers have not done much to help themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, actually.
It's a tough one though. It 100%. All these are
I don't think this is a super tough game to pick because it's hard to come out here and pick the Panthers, who were so dreadful last year, to go into New Orleans and win this game. So I am going to pick the Saints. That being said, I do think there will be improvement from the Panthers as a whole.
I hope so.
And
yeah.
especially in that division, which is not particularly strong. Who knows how many wins they could get because they get so many divisional matchups. So I am hoping for Bryce Young's sake, for Panthers' sake, because that's not an organization that I dislike and by any means, that they improve. And I don't see much improvement by way of the Saints, and neither does Chris Olave after that video that was released from training camp. Yeah, I don't think either of these teams are going to be particularly strong this season. Neither one will be competing for a playoff spot in my mind, potentially for the top spot in the division, which I guess is a playoff spot, but that's not a very big accomplishment. So yeah, give me the Saints.
All right, there we go.
I'm gonna go with the Saints, but I'm so reserved about it because the Panthers, while they haven't really improved roster-wise, the coaching improvement is so massive. Bringing in Dave Canales to help Bryce Young, he is the quarterback whisperer. He made Geno Smith work. He made Baker Mayfield work.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Absolutely the one that is going to make Bryce Young work if there's a chance at it. I'm still going to pick the Saints, though, because the rest of that team is nothing short of atrocious. They've screwed themselves in every way with one trade, and Tepper should resign. But this is a really poverty matchup. I'm going to go Saints.
Yeah, not the classic one that Charlie says, not one that I will be watching, which I love that.
This is correct.
Not one that we particularly be paying attention to, but we'll move on to the next one. And this is the best game, the most important game of the entire slate. That's the New York Giants against the Minnesota Vikings. I'm joking, me and Charlie are Giants fans, but very, very excited for this one. And I can confidently say this will be a Giants win. I think the Giants, I don't know if you could say they got better, but I think the Giants, obviously you lose Saquon, which is a big loss. But Malik Neighbors has looked fantastic. You bring in a healthy Jalen Hyatt. Wan'Dale Robinson was incredible, very, very reliable before he got injured last season. An offensive line that I know was preseason was phenomenal throughout preseason, weirdly phenomenal throughout preseason. So I like the Giants. I think it's, defensively, our defensive line is incredible, arguably up there for the best in the National Football League. I think our only hole, which has been kind of for these past years, is the secondary. We don't really have a cornerback one. I like Deonte Banks. I don't know if he's ready for the step up into cornerback one. We'll see. But I think it's a Giants win. The Vikings, obviously, no quarterback, still Justin Jefferson. And Darnold has proved he can win a game here and there. So again, I wouldn't be the most shocked if the Giants were to lose, but I think this will be a Giants win, and I can say that confidently, not as a fan. I think even if I wasn't, I would pick the Giants in this game.
Yeah, I think the reason that I can agree with you here is because of the Vikings injuries at the moment.
Yeah.
It's hard to say who would, win this game when both teams are healthy because both teams aren't healthy. Obviously, the Vikings' first-round draft pick, franchise quarterback J.J. McCarthy, is out for the season. T.J. Hawkinson is out for at least 8 weeks, I believe. That's two of their most important players just from the get-go. I know Justin Jefferson is quarterback proof, but it's another guy who was injured last season, and so we'll see what happens. I don't doubt that Jefferson will be back to himself. May take him a game or two, but he will absolutely be back to himself. And then I just think that the Giants, by way of saying that, I think the Giants are just a more complete team at the moment. So I will take the Giants. Which is kind
of the way you have to predict these games,
It is. I mean, I'm not predicting the whole season here, so
exactly,
it's all right. And then the one thing I will disagree with you on is that Deonte Banks is totally ready to be cornerback one for this team. Deonte Banks was phenomenal last season. I only expect improvement. And they just re-signed Adoree Jackson, which I know he wasn't great last year by any means, but there were questions about the cornerback 2 spots. Yeah, they just brought him back a couple days ago, maybe.
Right? Yeah,
he did
leave
left
and came back.
Came back.
Where did he go to?
He wasn't anywhere.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
And then there were a lot of questions about the cornerback 2 spot, but now that will be most likely, at any rate, Adoree Jackson.
You think Deonte Banks is ready? It's not that I don't think he's ready, but I have still question marks about his physicality.
No, absolutely. I think that by the end of the season, we could be looking at him as a top 10 corner in the league. I think that's the kind of potential that this guy has.
Yeah, I think he does have potential, but Dylan, we'll jump to you as a non-fan.
I have the Giants winning this game as well, and it's not easy because Daniel Jones is a complete disaster right now, just with everything that's gone on in preseason. And I'm not even a Daniel Jones hater per se. I don't think the contract was even as bad as people make it out to be, but he has had a terrible preseason. And with everything going on in Minnesota, I can't consciously give them a win, but this is another game where I feel like it's going to be really low quality football. The Giants have a great front line the great front seven on defense. The Vikings have a solid offensive line. It's going to be low scoring. It's going to be weak offense, but I will be giving it to the Giants.
Yeah. All right, Dylan, there we go. Would you say any of the things me and Charlie said were outrageous as fans?
So, no, I don't think Deonte Banks will be there yet. I think he's great, and I think he will be there within the next couple of seasons. But usually, in order to develop into one of the premier cornerbacks in the league, you need someone that's competent across from you, and he doesn't have that right now. So that's going to be something that...
yes and no. So I don't see exactly why you need someone across from you, because it's not like they play together.
But it's the fact that he's going to be targeted so much that to be seen as a premier corner, he has to be at literally the best corner in the league. Or
he's going to be targeted less because he's better by a mile than anybody else on the other side of the field.
But he's going to be targeted so much because he's going to be guarding the best players every single snap.
Well, but that's not how the NFL works, because they play sides, right? So in
but
man
Deonte,
coverage,
but I'm saying
he'll follow
I don't think
around.
I don't think Deonte Banks is going to play sides in the same way that he would have maybe last year when the other side of the field. And also in a Wink Martindale defense, it's different than what they're going to bring in Tennessee, in the Tennessee style that they have this year, where they are very much Mike Vrabel fundamental man-on-man defense. So
it's not Mike Vrabel defense,
but it's the same. It's the same subset, you know that. But it's not. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm a fan of Deontay Banks, but I'm not convinced that he will take that step. I think he could, but nothing like a random tangent like that to know we're back. But let's move on to the next one. Patriots Bengals, another one where a Patriots team that is extremely poor roster wise. You have a guy like Jalen Polk, and we were talking about this in our group chat the other day. Jalen Polk, who is technically their wide receiver 1 and was the wide receiver 3 on Washington. Not to take anything away from Jalen Polk, I think he's a good receiver. And then obviously Jacoby Brissett named QB1, which is a little concerning considering it's Jacoby Brissett and you drafted a quarterback 2nd overall. I think Drake May should have been the starter. Like, I think based on, where the Patriots were, they were drafting him to be the starter, which is a little concerning. I think he will step in and be the starter by the end of the year. You're playing a Bengals team that is, we know Super Bowl contenders, have a fantastic roster, obviously offensively are extremely high powered. The loss of Mixon, I'm excited to see, or I'm interested to see how they allocate the touches they gave him. But again, we've talked about this a lot. Me and Charlie have debated about this. To me, Jamar Chase, when he's fully healthy, talent-wise, I think he's the best wide receiver in the National Football League. I think he is absolutely fantastic. So to me, this is a convincing Bengals win. I think the Bengals will win by quite a few here.
Do you realize what the Bengals do in week 1 of every year, by the way?
I don't care. It's the Patriots.
No, I know, and I'm gonna pick the Bengals. You know what? No, I will. I'm not gonna be crazy. I'm not gonna be crazy. I'm gonna pick the Bengals.
Don't be like Charlie last year.
Yeah.
I would say something and then just completely disagree with it, and Dylan would be like, "What?"
No, I'm not gonna do it. But I do have to say that the Bengals always walk into week 1 and look horrible. That being said, they can do that this week and still win. So I'm going to go with the Bengals. The Patriots actually listed Tyquan Thornton as their wide receiver 1 for this season.
Baylor, I remember when he was drafted.
Jacoby Brissett in at the helm at quarterback. No Belichick. This is going to be a disaster of a season for them. Give me the Bengals.
It is interesting to see how, like, a couple years ago we did scouting reports on, I forget exactly which draft it was, maybe 2022. Tyquan Thornton's probably a name where we're like, nobody actually knows anything about Tyquan Thornton. We just know that, like, he's a good receiver who maybe was fast.
He was like fast. That was kind of his
ends up as like our wide receiver. I don't know, 20 in the draft, something like that. And he's now a wide receiver 1 for maybe the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah.
But it's like he turned into a wide receiver 1. But yeah, in this game, I think the Bengals could truly walk in and be the worst versions of themselves and still win 9-0 or. But
crazy
scoreline. Don't think they. It is a crazy scoreline. I don't think they will walk in and be the worst version of themselves. I think they have something to prove this year because the last couple of seasons have not gone how they wanted them to. Whether it's been Burrow injured or Burrow struggling or Jamar Chase injured, who is not the best wide receiver in the football.
Yes, he is healthy,
but no, he's not.
No, he's not. I know he's not.
Probably comes in when fully healthy. For me, he probably comes in at number 4.
But Chase isn't even it. You guys realize Chase isn't injured? He's on a contract dispute.
No, I know. He was injured last year.
Okay,
no, Charlie, I probably if you're making me list our receivers, Justin Jefferson and Tyreek are above him. But I just think when he's fully healthy, like I don't hate taking Chase over either of them.
Yeah, so I guess my ranking officially is Chase is number 5, potentially lower on the list.
Who's above him?
I mean, with ease, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, and probably this is for me. I know you could argue this, but Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, that's absurd.
Okay, so
I don't think it is.
I don't agree with that. I think I actually also probably have him 5th, but not Amon-Ra. I would have AJ Brown.
Interesting. But, I think pure talent wise, Chase is probably a more talented receiver than St. Brown is, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is the most consistent, just unbelievable. Like he's a different style player than any of these other guys, and he brings a different skill set to the table.
I don't know. I think All right, well, we'll move on. We all did our picks.
We all had the Bengals. I believe
all Bengals. So. Move on. Another not extremely interesting one. However, interesting in the sense that we have a quarterback, not battle, but room that should be having kind of a shakeup. Steelers play the Falcons. Steelers, obviously, Russell Wilson will be their quarterback one. Fields didn't look terrible in a couple of their preseason games, but again, it's a Steelers team that I think defensively is incredible. Dylan, I know you think that. Surge, our other host, absolutely loves the Steelers defense, which always is consistent. You have Mike Tomlin, who somehow finds them each year in kind of a good spot. And then the Falcons, who arguably the best safety duo in the league, Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons. If you keep both those guys healthy, I mean, those are two incredibly good safeties. They bring in Matt Judon from the Patriots. I'm kind of saying this now, noticing how good that Falcons defense on paper is. We'll see how it pans out. Obviously, still with AJ Terrell, who is arguably a top 5 quarterback corner in the National Football League, top 7. This is a tough game for me. I think it's 2 even teams. So I'll kind of pass the baton to you guys, and I want to hear what we think, because I think we just went through a couple not very interesting ones. This one to me piques my interest.
Yeah, I think that this is definitely one that you could see being picked either way. I think the Steelers have a slightly better roster. Like, I think I like their team just a little bit more than the Falcons, although I don't particularly love either. I think the Falcons will be probably winning their division. I think the Steelers will be probably last in their division. That being said, they're pretty comparable teams. I'm going to take the Steelers in this one strictly because I think their defense stacks up pretty well to defend Atlanta. And I don't like Atlanta strictly because of how much hype Drake London is getting, and I just don't think he's that good. But yeah, I'm gonna pick the Steelers.
We did have an interesting, because yesterday in the group chat, me and Charlie were like, yeah, I don't like Drake London. Then we're like, wait, he actually has a pretty good quarterback that like he probably will, he should be good.
I could 100% see Drake London breaking out, but especially for me when you look at like, I know this isn't a real NFL thing, but when you look at like fantasy football rankings and Drake London is listed as like the wide receiver 11.
Yeah.
You're kidding. I could name you 25 receivers that are better than Drake London right now on the spot, and it's not hard. It's like I'm doing that. But I just don't see the hype that people are seeing, especially considering the way that Falcons receivers have been getting the ball in recent years. And Kirk Cousins is the biggest upgrade of probably any quarterback, maybe other than the Jets upgrade this season, but I just don't see it.
So I like these segments. I always do this to Charlie. Charlie will say something, and then I'll, like we did like with our soccer prediction. Name 12 receivers better than London. Okay, what would be absurd? Like, what would people get mad at? Like, you can name 10 better. Name like 12. Just go until you don't want to anymore. Like, just name their
Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown. Now I have to actually think, because these are the only receivers we've named so far. Devontae Adams.
Okay.
DJ Moore.
Okay.
Thinking of receivers in the
Garrett
National Football League. Garrett Wilson with ease. Puka Nacua.
Yep. Cup.
Cooper Kupp. Jalen Waddle. T. Higgins. Nico Collins. Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, damn.
There are a lot, and I'm like barely scratching the surface.
Ayuk,
George Pickens, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel.
A lot.
There are a lot.
There we go.
There are a lot of receivers that I would rather have on my football team than Drake London.
There we go. Oh, well. Drake
London. Hate to Drake London. I really loved him coming out of college.
Yeah. I mean, I think he could have a good year. But all right, let's go to our picks. Let's go to our picks.
I don't see it happening, but it could definitely happen.
All right, I think I like the Falcons. I think the Falcons will win this one.
Okay, so I haven't even been able to get my foot in here. I am so conflicted because on one hand, it's Mike Tomlin versus a new look offense that is really a brutal open. But on the other hand, I love what the Falcons are going for. Bringing in Raheem Morris as the head coach, but bringing in Zach Robinson, who, although he's never been an offensive coordinator, he's been in McVay's room. He's been in McVay's ear, telling him how to run this really complicated offense. And you bringing that to an offense that has so many blue chip prospects. You have Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, who we haven't seen play well yet, because he was in Arthur Smith jail. We don't know what's going to happen now that he has a legit play caller and a legit quarterback. He was drafted there for a reason. And I think I'm going to take Atlanta based on the pure talent they have that looks like they're going to be able to be free going into this game. And it might be the wrong pick just because we know what Pittsburgh does every year in playing just that solid defensively. But I'm too moved by this Atlanta team that I really think can contend legitimately this year.
Okay. We'll move on. Charlie, you have Atlanta?
I have Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh. And Dylan, you have Atlanta.
I have Atlanta.
All right. Next game,
Yeah,
we
what about
move on to Texans Colts. This is going to be a great game. I love this matchup. Two quarterbacks where one Stroud has broken through that potential, and I think we'll see him get even better this year. And then Anthony Richardson, who showed flashes in the beginning of last season, and then obviously the injury kind of went down. Obviously, didn't give him time. However, this, I think, is a fantastic game. You have a Colts team, I think, two offenses that are similar to good running backs, a receiving core that the Texans have a better one, but I think the Colts have a decent one now with Pittman, who's been very, very reliable. Pittman, another guy better than Drake London, Charlie. And
Definitely.
who was the Texas? It wasn't Worthy. They drafted. Who was the other receiver the Colts took from Texas? It wasn't Worthy. It was the other one.
Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah, Adonai Mitchell, who, again, another burner downfield. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor, who has been the best running back in the league a few years ago. So this is a tough game for me. I think the Texans will win. I would assume we would all pick that because I think the Texans, again, are a Super Bowl contender. CJ Stroud is an MVP contender. They are I love how this team has been built over the past 3 years. They just get better and better. A team who was already fantastic last year. I'm just excited to see Stroud. I think obviously Mahomes is probably MVP favorite, but I would probably put Stroud second. Again, if he stays healthy, if his weapons stay healthy, you bring in Diggs now. It's a Texans team that is extremely well coached and extremely well rostered. So for me, this is a convincing, maybe not a convincing win, but to me, this was easy. I think the Texans will win this game.
So I have the Texans winning this game, even though the Colts always start off strong, and I really like Shane Steichen. It's so unfortunate that they missed the playoffs last year. They really should have made it if they didn't have Tyler Goodson in at running back at the back end of that game where Minshew and him had the miscommunication. That would have been their win, and the Texans' super fairy tale story would never have happened. But I have the Texans winning this one, and it's not really Stephon Diggs related. It's more so to the fact that they are going to be able to run the ball inside against Indianapolis with pretty much no problems. DeForest Buckner is not what he once was. Houston shored up the interior and I think made their defense so much more formidable, which takes away a lot of Indianapolis's ground game. I'm not expecting a lot from Jonathan Taylor against this linebacking core and this interior D line from Houston. For those reasons, I think it's going to be a pretty comfortable win for them.
I'm going to go against that. I'm going to say the Colts are going to win this game.
God damn it.
I'm going to say that because it's in Indianapolis and because I actually really like what the Colts have built in their offense, at least. I know I'm not a big Anthony Richardson fan. I was a big hater last year. But what he provides to an offense is very invaluable.
Charlie hated him.
You were a hater.
Look, I hated him, and then I was proved right because he got hurt in like week 2, and that's what I said.
That's not being proved.
Happen.
Okay,
no, that's exactly what I said was going to happen.
You're right.
That being said, he is an invaluable asset to a football team if he's healthy. So, and then they also have potentially the best runner of the football in the league in Jonathan Taylor when healthy. I think arguably the second best running back in the league behind only Christian McCaffrey. He kind of proved that towards the end of last season. He was incredible. And he was the number 1 running back in the league 2 seasons ago when he rushed for 16 or 1,800 yards. And then they have Michael Pittman, who's one of the most reliable receivers in the NFL. Not one of the best, but one of the most reliable for sure. And then I don't hate their defense. It's not good, but I don't hate it enough, and playing in Indianapolis will give them a boost. So I'm going to take the Colts just to go against the narrative for this one.
All right, Charlie. I think someone needed to. We'll move on to the
I think it's a reasonable pick. It's a divisional matchup in Indianapolis,
Yeah. We'll move on to the next one. And it is the Bills against the Cardinals, a Bills team that I think is not going to be very good this year. I think they will be a
Wow.
very average, not average, they'll be above average, but I think they've,
The worst version of themselves.
yeah, the worst version of themselves in the past 3-4 years. You lose Matt Milano, you lose Stephon Diggs. Receiving wise, I think Keon Coleman, I hope, is not good because if he turns out to be good, that guy is an absolute unit of a human being.
And he's just gonna be all over social media, and he
Yeah,
already is, and like he's
I
just
know.
gonna be even more.
I hope he does
Yeah,
actually
no,
for Dylan's sake.
no, please don't.
Uh,
No.
but I think this will be a Bills win. However, I like the Cardinals. Is Kyler back for this game? No, right?
Yeah, no, he is. He's
He is?
healthy.
Oh, yeah, his
Yeah.
injury was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was last year when. Okay, yeah.
It's hard to keep track. There's a new one every year.
It
So.
literally is hard to keep track. I swear he got injured last year. He probably did. However, I think I'm so excited to see Marvin Harrison. I cannot wait to see how good he will be. Again, it's a good matchup. I think this will be a close game. I would not be surprised if the Cardinals came out and won this game. I think the Cardinals, defensively are not great. And I think the Bills will still be the Bills. They have been. They're coached by the same coaches. They still have Josh Allen, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I think him alone could win them this game. But I do think the Bills have some glaring holes in that team that will be exposed this year.
Yep, the Bills will be exposed in due time, but it won't be this weekend. This is actually going to be my lock of the week. The Bills are
Really?
they're falling off at a scale that I'm very excited about and I will be gloating about when it happens. But what a lot of people see in Arizona, I just think is a little premature. You have one really fun young receiver who's going to be one of the best in the league. You have Kyler Murray, who hasn't proven that he could put together a healthy season, let alone a good one within the past 3 years. And I love all of the intangibles with him, but he just hasn't been consistent enough to say that he's one of the elite guys in the league. You have James Conner still, and then the offensive line is nothing short of dreadful. The secondary is pretty weak. Buda Baker's is good. You have some solid pieces on the front line now, but it's really nothing to write home about. The Bills are just better in every area of the field outside of the receiver group. And even the receiver group, it's just Marvin Harrison. So I'm going the Bills by 10 or more, honestly.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna agree with you. I thought this was gonna be our everybody say their answer on 3 week because we haven't had that yet.
I thought we retired that though, because we all got it wrong.
I
Did
don't
we?
remember.
I bet we
I think
did.
we did.
I don't know that we did, but I could be totally wrong again. But I am also gonna totally choose the Bills in this one because I think I agree completely with what you're saying, Dylan. At least about the Cardinals. There are just sort of a lot of if statements being made about the Cardinals right now. You know, if Kyler Murray is healthy and has an MVP season, if Marvin Harrison is the best receiver in the league, which people
Yeah.
expect him to be somehow, there are just a lot of ifs.
People are
And
forgetting that not Shane Steichen, that Jonathan Gannon tried to motivate his team by asking who took the bus.
yes.
It's
Um,
like-
but it also is just a little bit of like there are just too many ifs. And even if Marvin Harrison is the best receiver in the league this season, it does not mean the Cardinals are going to win 13 games because they can't have every single thing go right. And even then, they're still not that good.
Mhm.
They have holes on the defense. They have
I
holes
hate
on the
their
offensive
coaching
line.
also.
They have holes once you get past Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride. There's just they don't have great coaching. There's not enough going for the Cardinals yet. I like what they're building, but not yet. As for the Bills, I'm trying to keep this short, but I don't think the Bills are on as much of a decline as you guys say because at the end of the day, they still have Josh Allen. And I know Josh Allen is not Patrick Mahomes, but as long as they've got him, I think they're okay. They're not going to be guaranteed to go to the AFC Championship game, but they're okay. And they'll rebuild around Josh Allen if they have to. And even with Josh Allen and nobody else, they'll still win enough football games to be a good team. Good team.
All right, there we go. We'll move on to the next one where we have the Titans against the Chicago Bears. Another matchup that we get to watch a lot of new talent in the league. We get to see the highly touted Caleb Williams make his NFL debut. Obviously, the new receiving core, Roma Dunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. It is a good Bears team. It's an upgraded Bears team. It's a Bears team that has high hopes in Chicago going into this season. And then you have Tennessee, who, again, you bring in Calvin Ridley in the offseason, but you have Will Levis on a second year who looked good. I think Will Levis could be a good quarterback in the league, but not particularly exciting in Tennessee. However, I think this game will be extremely close. I think, again, there are games in the prediction videos where, like, if, it's the one that could make one of us get that much above and one of us that much below. I don't know if that made any sense. I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're trying to say.
It's where the prediction is so hard where, like, if you get it right, it's,
games
that really separate you. I think, do we go with the hype train in Chicago? I think I will. Hopefully I don't fall into a trap there. But I think Chicago offensively are ridiculously talented. Caleb Williams has looked fantastic. I expect him to be good. I expect him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'm not one of those guys who pretends like he's a genius and, Caleb Williams is going to be terrible. I think Caleb Williams will be very good. But I could see Tennessee winning this one. Very much could see Tennessee winning this one.
I have Chicago as well. And I said it on our Bears preview, and I'll say it again right now, especially after what I've seen in this offseason. I think Caleb Williams is going to step into the league and be a top 10 quarterback from the second he takes his first snap.
Which I agree with.
That is how good he is, and that's how good he's ready to be, especially in an offense that is ready for a star quarterback. This isn't just some put together offense with a great quarterback. This is a quarterback that still needs to prove that he's great, but with some unbelievable players. A guy that you didn't even mention in your better than Drake London rant was Keenan Allen, who has been one of the best receivers in the league for the past 10 years now. And maybe he's losing a step. I mean, he's definitely losing a step. But then you have Rome Odunze. You have DeAndre Swift in the backfield, who's better than what they had last year. You have a solid enough offensive line and maybe a bottom 15 defense. That's the downside, but it's not like they're not going to kill them. And then on the Titans half, it's just going to take some time for them to rebuild. I don't hate anything that they did this offseason. I thought the coaching hire was right. I think getting rid of Derrick Henry was the right thing to do for the organization, but they're not ready quite yet.
Yeah, if you guys have heard me talk about it before, I'm not the biggest fan of the Bears this season. I wasn't the biggest fan of Caleb Williams. Obviously, I think he's a great quarterback. I'm not going to be the one who goes out there, says he's a genius, and says Caleb is going to be terrible, because that's, not going to happen. But I don't love the Bears as much as I feel like the typical NFL fan does at the moment. And I don't think the Titans are going to, make them pay for that this week, because, again, it's in Chicago, and I think they're still better than the Titans. So I am going to take the Bears in this one. But I would not be surprised if it was a closer game than people might think, or if the Bears aren't as good as people think they will be this year.
Okay. Still a Bears win?
Yes.
Bears across the board. Move on now. Jaguars, Dolphins, Florida matchup. Dylan has been waiting on this one. Jacksonville and Miami. Obviously, Miami still have two quarterbacks, so they still kind of, it's like Miami, it's like when you have the car and it gets they put that thing on the wheel so you can't drive it, but like the three other wheels still work, but that one, it has like the, like the clamp that they put on.
I'm not gonna let you get to my head right now.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Ian, I'm not gonna let you get in my head right now, because we literally did a tier list where you agreed that he's
because
top
Dylan,
10.
that's when I feel like being nice to you.
I immediately win, because not only is he now a top 3 paid quarterback in the league on an extension,
which is,
the world agrees that he's good. You agreed that he's good. I won this.
No, you didn't. I think 2 is fine. Dylan, you compared him to Tom Brady. You will never win. You're never winning this.
Did we not go through this in the group chat though, about the exaggerations?
You want me to name 10 quarterbacks better than Tua right now?
Yes, please.
You can't.
Yes, you can.
You can't. All right, I have
Josh Allen.
Dolphins win, by the way. Okay, fair.
Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
Kirk Cousins.
No,
Yep.
no.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why did you bring Kirk Cousins in before some of the other guys?
Because I'm looking at a list of quarterbacks right now, and I'm just going down the list, and it's not
No.
because of anything else. Jordan Love,
Yep.
Understandable. I disagree.
Jared Goff,
No.
Yep. Yep.
You
Jalen
said
Hurts.
no. Yeah, understandable. I still disagree.
CJ Stroud,
Yep. Purdy.
Joe Burrow,
Yep.
Burrow. Yep.
and I believe that's 10. Correct me if I'm
Uh,
wrong.
I didn't count it, but I disagreed. with a lot of
Purdy,
them.
Herbert.
I left
Again,
out Purdy and Herbert because I feel like Dylan would get really mad if I said
no,
those.
I wouldn't get mad at either of them because all of them make sense. I just disagree. But let's talk
No,
about the
it's fair,
game
it's fair.
itself. Let's talk about the game.
All right,
itself.
Dylan. We'll give you the spotlight. That was good though, Dylan. Give me my credit. That was a funny analysis of it.
No, it was a very wrong but well thought out analysis. But I think the Dolphins win this game against Jacksonville, who, for all intents and purposes, got worse this offseason in losing their star wide receiver in Calvin Ridley, replacing him with a rookie who was never the wide receiver one in college at his college. And this isn't shade to Brian Thomas Jr., but he's not ready to be a wide receiver one in the NFL. And the defense was never that strong in Jacksonville. It should be better this year because hopefully number 1 overall pick Trayvon Walker looks like
I was about to
maybe
say that.
a top 30 edge rusher in the league.
We
But
all said it. We all knew.
that
when
was our first
been-
viral clip. That was our first
It's
viral
just-
clip.
Nobody thought, like, at least of the four of us, that Trayvon Walker was a bad player.
I
So
did.
Pick
at
2 was
first.
Aiden
I did not like-
Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
And
yeah,
then
no,
5
it-
was Thibodeau. Both of whom are
Kyle
clearly
Hamilton was on the
better.
board.
But I mean, I'm talking edge
Wait,
rushers
oh my
pure,
God!
or
Trayvon
defensive
Walker
linemen
went
purely.
before Hutchinson.
yeah, that was
And-
the whole thing. That was our first
I forg-
viral clip when I was just like, "Are you serious?" Like,
Yeah, at a certain point, it's just
And I
ridiculous.
love
that he was
Dylan. I
picked
love
before
it because
those guys.
I remember the comments were just
no, they were all like,
ripping
like
you apart.
everyone was like trying to be a football in there. They're like,
Yeah.
but he can play in both the defensive
Yeah.
tackle and he can also play on the edge. I'm so smart. I can comment
You're
on
like,
a video
shut
about it. Like,
I
like,
might go back to that and just respond to all their comments and be like, "Damn, you look
dude,
stupid."
no, let
I'm
me
gonna
do
do
that. Let
that.
me do that.
Or
Let
you
me
do that, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, going on to Miami's half. This is the most explosive offense in the league. Just all intents and purposes, the most explosive offense in the league. The fastest players you can
Yeah, that's
possibly
true.
put
That is
on
true.
the field together at the same time. The offensive line is going to be a mess. I'm not ready to watch this offensive line, but for this game, it won't be a problem. I'm going Miami.
I'm
Okay,
gonna-
so
yeah.
question for you, Dylan. What are your thoughts on Achane for this season? Because
He's
that is a
going to-
player that
yeah.
I am very stuck on. Because in the limited minutes and games he got last year due to injury and being on the bench, he was fantastic. He was unbelievable. But we can't really expect that to continue,
No.
right? Like that's what's going
so-
through my head.
So you can expect I would say you could expect what happened last year very similarly, but it's not the injuries that I'm concerned about. It's the fact that he has 2 other backs that are going to vulture his touches away. Jalen Wright is going to be a part of this offense, and Raheem Mostert, in my eyes, is still the bell cow. So Achane is going to be there. He's going to get a lot of touches because that's how they have to use him. He's that good, but he's not going to be he's going to be like a 5th focus for the offense.
So he's going to be the kind of guy who gets probably 12 touches a game, but explodes
Less.
with those 12 touches.
Less. I don't think he even gets 12 touches a game. But he
So
will
then
explode.
why? But if he's such an exciting piece of this team, why would they not give him the ball more?
Because
McDaniel's
there's
not a
so-
bad coach. You know that.
There's so many other, and I would like for Achane to touch the ball as much as he can, but there's so many other players on this offense. You have Tyreek Hill, who's commanding 15 touches a game. You have Jalen Waddle, who's commanding 8 targets a game. Raheem Mostert scored the most touchdowns in the league on the ground last year. There's just there's so many things you have to consider, and it's also the Dolphins are done with this finesse identity. They're no longer the team that's going to try to be just smarter and cuter than you behind the line of scrimmage. They're going to start to play more traditionally this year. And I saw that with the way that they brought in Jonnu Smith and the way they drafted Patrick Paul. They want to be stronger this year. So I think it's going to be less so Achane, maybe more Jalen Wright.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I think the Dolphins win this game pretty handedly. I don't think the Jaguars have much going for them. If Trevor Lawrence starts playing like the quarterback he was supposed to play like, great. If not, they're going to be in for another long season, especially considering he doesn't have any great weapons at his disposal. I do like ETN a lot, but again, he plays for the Jaguars, so it's going to be tough for him. Give me the Dolphins easily.
I think the Jaguars definitely could win.
They could.
I just think defensively they're not great, but I love the LSU receiver they drafted. I always forget his name. He was behind Neighbors.
Brian Thomas.
Brian Thomas, I think, could be incredibly good. Losing Ridley was kind of a scratch the head loss, but we'll move on to the next game where we have the worst team in the National Football League, the Denver Broncos, facing off against the boring Seattle Seahawks. This is a one we don't need to touch on most. I think the Broncos are a mess. I hope Knicks is good, I guess. But to me, this is Seahawks all the way.
Yeah, Seahawks, I don't really have much to say about it.
Yeah, not much either. I do think that we could see a lot of improvement from Bo Nix throughout the season, though. I do like Bo Nix. It was an early pick, but I like him. But I'm going to take the Seahawks for sure.
He got screwed though because he's never going to be able to succeed in a team that's that dysfunctional. With I mean, Sean Payton's a great coach, but like, what else is there with him?
Yeah,
there?
it's tough.
He's gonna have problems. This is a Seattle win.
Yeah.
All right. We'll move on to the next game where we have a divisional matchup. Vegas go and play the Chargers. And look, it's a Vegas team that has struggled since we were, pretty young. They have, the Raiders just, for some reason, have not been able to make it over the hump. This is, to me, another Chargers win. However, it's a divisional matchup, so we could see the Chargers. You look at them 2 years ago, we were projecting them to be the best team in the National Football League, and they have not lived up to that. You lose Keenan Allen.
You were projecting them to be the best team in the National Football League, never me.
I don't think I did.
No, you didn't. You didn't either. But I'm just saying other people did.
Dylan's just trying to hide behind the fact that he said, it was just a Tua Herbert conversation, not the Chargers conversation.
I'm not even bringing that up anymore.
However, I think this is a Chargers win. Herbert is still a very good quarterback. But again, a game I could see the Raiders winning.
Who is the Raiders starting quarterback?
Minshew.
It's Gardner Minshew.
That's so embarrassing. I genuinely forgot that he was their starter. But either way, I'm going to take the Chargers. This is going to be a battle of two bad to mediocre teams. Maybe they win 6 or 7 games apiece, but I'll take the Chargers at home in this one.
Let me try to pick up some points here. I'm going to take the Raiders.
I like it. I actually like that.
So it's a divisional game where we're forgetting that the Raiders beat the Chargers by 60 last year. And they are a better defensive team than they were at the back end of last year because they brought in Christian Wilkins. Max Crosby is Max Crosby. He's phenomenal. Trayvon Merrick had a really good back half of the year. And the Chargers, although Jim Harbaugh is going to be a good coach in due time, I still think are completely lacking of talent in the majority of their team. You have Herbert, who is a top 10 quarterback in the league. No running back talent. No wide receiver talent. A solid offensive line. It's just Herbert and protection with no skill positions. The defense isn't good either. I think the Raiders have a better team on them, and I also think that this is a good opportunity for me to be a contrarian, so I'm going to go Raiders.
I like that.
All right. Fair enough.
Move on. Another good game. 4:25 Sunday. We have the Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns. The Browns, a team who the past 2 years have been great. You see Joe Flacco step in and somehow be a very good quarterback. You get Deshaun Watson back now. And does this change a lot for the Browns? Are they back in contention for a Super Bowl technically? Or do you still think the Browns are kind of going to scratch the surface this season? I think the Browns will win this game. I actually don't know. This is another one where I think we might split, but I'll go to you first, Charlie.
I think I'm not totally sure because this is, again, a tough one because I think Cowboys have the better team, but it's in Cleveland. And one of the most interesting storylines to think about with the Cowboys at any rate is that I believe Micah Parsons is going to be leaving the Cowboys after this season. Um, he has an expiring contract, and so does Dak Prescott. And they just paid CeeDee one of the biggest contracts I've ever seen. Like, I was stunned. And they just don't have the money to pay for Prescott and CeeDee, and or for Prescott and Parsons, and they can't let go of Prescott if they win enough games. So, but that's irrelevant for this game. I will take the Cowboys because they are. I I don't know, because the Cowboys. I don't know.
All
Yeah,
right.
I don't.
I don't have much analysis
It's
to
a
go with
you know
that. I
it's
just
it's a
think that the Cowboys are going to win this game.
it's a close game. It's a close game. Nick Chubb isn't healthy, so that's going to be a reason that I'm going to take the Cowboys. But Surge coined it. I'm not going to take credit for the nickname, but Deshaun Weinstein is not a good quarterback. He had a
That is
terrible.
insane. That's good. I like that. That's funny.
He had a terrible season last year, and people always say with him, like every year when he's supposed to come back, oh, wait for Watson to be healthy. He is not good anymore. He hasn't played good football since he went
Since the
4-12.
wild card loss, right?
No, since he went 4-12. He had a good season when he went 4-12, but since the wild, it was really the divisional losses. It was 5 years ago. He hasn't been good for so long. So I have no reason to believe that an offense without Nick Chubb, with Deshaun Watson now, can make up for the ground that they're not ready to make up for. And the defense is going to be good, but it's not enough. Give me the Cowboys.
We'll move on to the next game. Commanders, Buccaneers. Look, the Commanders, I think, generally have been the most boring team in football for many years. Like, no one cares about the Commanders. They changed their name and thought people would care, and still nobody did. You bring in Jaden Daniels now, so you pique people's interest. I think Jaden Daniels will be a good quarterback. A lot of people kind of have him. I think he's behind Caleb Williams for Rookie of the Year, or excuse me, for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And it's a good matchup for both teams. I think this will be a closer game. I have Buccaneers winning, but just because I like Tampa, I think Baker has kind of made a comeback and is now a serviceable quarterback. You obviously have Mike Evans there still. The offensive line is good. Defensively, they have kept most of their pieces, except Shaq Barrett retired.
Shaq
But-
Barrett went to the Dolphins and then retired.
And then retired, yeah. So. Weird. Oh, no, did he play a season there last year, though?
No,
he went this season. That's what I
he
thought.
signed with us in free agency and then he
Yeah.
retired.
But yeah, this is a Buccaneers win for me, but I'm very excited to see Jaden Daniels. I think a guy who has shown a lot and should be a good quarterback.
Yep, give me the Bucks. No real analysis. The Commanders are terrible. The best thing about the Commanders is watching Magic Johnson's Twitter account after they lose, because he's just he'll tweet like a formal "I'm sorry we lost" type thing because he owns them. But it's an easy decision for the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm not
Alright.
sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, it is an easy decision for the Bucks. I think the Bucks are the better football team, but I like Jaden Daniels enough. I drafted him in a fantasy league. We'll see. It'll be definitely an exciting storyline to watch this season, but I will also take the Bucks.
All right, we'll move on to the next one, and that is Sunday Night Football. Rams, Lions, fantastic matchup. Obviously, the Rams still with Stafford, who I think is consistently, him and Kirk, one of the most underrated quarterbacks. I think Stafford is fantastic. And then a Lions team that have been very good. Obviously, make it to the divisional round last year. Or no, were they? Oh no, AFC champion or NFC champion. Yeah, NFC
Yeah,
championship. Excuse me, I
NFC
forgot. I
championship.
forgot it was the Packers who lost to the Niners. So a team that again is Super Bowl, hoping to be Super Bowl bound this year. You keep the players. Jared Goff has been a good quarterback, another underrated guy. A tough prediction. I think it's Lions, but again, this is a game that's very close. It's two similar good, defense teams. I think this will come down to offensively, and I just think the Lions have a lot more pieces to spread the ball out to. So I think it's the Lions win here.
I think this game comes down to the lack of defense on the Rams' part. They lost Aaron Donald in the offseason. They lost Raheem Morris, who's their defensive coordinator for a long time, who was phenomenal for them. They just traded Ernest Jones for no reason. So I think they're gonna have a little bit of a learning curve defensively, and for that, I'll go with the Lions pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Lions comfortably. I'm interested to see, though, for the Rams, how the offense plays with both Cup and Nakua fully healthy, just because those are two of the, premier receivers in the league, strictly because I think Sean McVay and the coaching staff in LA are kind of geniuses at getting receivers the ball. But I'll take the Lions. They have probably the most complete roster in the NFL, maybe behind the Niners. So I'll take the Lions in Detroit.
Okay. Move on to the last game of the week and another extremely exciting matchup. A healthy Jets, Aaron Rodgers led Jets against the San Francisco 49ers. This should be fireworks. This should be fireworks on both sides of the ball. Obviously, the 49ers, a team who came up short last year, but kind of were there the whole, every step of the way. This is I think this is a Niners win, and I think most people will say that, but we have not seen an Aaron Rodgers led Jets, as crazy as it is that he came here 2 years ago. We have not seen him play with this Jets team. We have not seen this Jets team with a quarterback the caliber of Aaron Rodgers. Again, there's still that, is Aaron Rodgers the same with after the Achilles injury, but he recovered like a superhuman. So hopefully he is. This is a Niners win. Don't overthink it. It's a Niners win, but this is going to be a very good game. I think this will be a close matchup, and I think this will be one of the best games of the season.
Well, Jets defense is undoubtedly one of the best in the league, but the Niners offense is just more firepower, and the defense in San Francisco is better than the offense in New York. It's just a story of which team is better. Now, Saleh does understand Shanahan at a level that other coaches might not, but I still don't think it's going to make the difference. I'll go with San Francisco just due to the fact that they've got all their guys back. No contract negotiations went wrong. They got Ayuk. They're on a high. They're at home Monday night. The Jets don't do well in prime time. I will go with San Fran.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a little bit of a reality check for the Jets fans. I'm not the biggest fan of the Jets this season. I haven't been the biggest fan ever since they got Aaron Rodgers, just because I don't think he's the same quarterback he once was, especially now coming off of a season-ending injury last season. I think the Niners will win this game comfortably, but the Jets do have pieces to make this a strong season, like Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, of course. But I do think this will be a comfortable Niners win.
All right, we will move, and now move on. That will be it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, we said, hey, let's do quick predictions, and this took us, more than an hour. So we gave you all a lot to think about. There's a lot to think about. Let us know your picks down below. Follow along with us. We will be keeping track of our scores. We'll do something at the end for whoever's the worst or someone who's, whatever the winner. So stay up to date with us, and we will see you next.